Planning your first Alaska cruise might feel a bit overwhelming. We first sailed to Alaska in 2014 and have been fortunate enough to cruise the region a few other times since then. Whether you've cruised before or your Alaska cruise is your first cruise ever, we're here to help as we've compiled the list of the 10 things we wish we knew before taking our first Alaska cruise up next. Welcome aboard, cruisers, and a special welcome back to our Eat Sleep Cruise subscribers. Over the years, we've been on 5 Alaska cruises, and we learned something new on every trip. And by the end of this video, you'll know everything we know about what it's like cruising way up north. Help ensure your first Alaska cruise is smooth sailing. For our first Alaska cruise, we worked with a travel agent to secure a round-trip sailing from Seattle. While this is a very popular option, there are various Alaska cruise itineraries, and honestly, not all Alaska cruise itineraries are created equal. There are also round-trip sailings from Vancouver, British Columbia, which is another popular option. Additionally, there are one-way cruises from Seward or Whittier, Alaska to Vancouver, or vice versa. Heck, there are even sailings from San Francisco to Southeast Alaska as well. Further, a variety of cruise ports and scenic cruising options exist across several of these Alaska itineraries. A majority of these cruises will stop at the state capital of Juneau and larger ports like Ketchikan and Skagway. However, there are also lesser visited ports like Sitka, Haines, and Icy Strait Point, just to name a few. Not to mention, there are several different glacier viewing opportunities. The Dawes Glacier, the Hubbard Glacier, and Glacier Bay National Park offer different experiences. It took us several sailings before we ever visited Glacier Bay National Park. Now, we can't recommend enough trying to find a cruise that sails through this pristine area. With the opportunity to view multiple glaciers and well-curated programming from the park rangers, this is a fantastic introduction to the region and cruising in Alaska. On our first trip to Alaska, we actually splurged on the trip to celebrate our wedding anniversary. So we didn't mind paying quite a bit more for this cruise when compared to our previous cruises in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. At the time, we didn't realize this was the rule rather than the exception. Since then, we've learned that cruising to Alaska is not cheap. Cruise fares can run double those for similar rooms and ships in other regions. Then there's the airfare to get to and from the departure points. Tack on additional costs like specialty dining, alcoholic beverages, cruise gratuities, and shore excursions, and you'll watch the bill quickly add up. While most of these other fees are pretty standard across destinations, the same cannot be said about the shore excursions. Many cruisers are traveling to the region for unique bucket list opportunities, and there are certainly some unforgettable tours. From helicopter tours and glacier walks, to dog sledding, bear or whale watching, and even zip lines, many travelers have their heart set on these tours while in the Pacific Northwest. We've indeed spent hundreds of dollars for some of these experiences. So if you want to go all out, you can easily spend $1,000 or more per person just on shore excursions. With all of these considerations, we typically recommend that cruisers plan to spend between $2,000 to $5,000 a person. On several trips, we've easily spent $8,000 to $10,000 cruising in the region, and that's just for 2 of us. But trust us, it is so worth it. While tropical cruises are a time for rest and relaxation for many, Alaska cruises are all about doing and seeing as much as possible. Most itineraries include early morning calls into port, with excursions starting as early as 7 or 8 a.m. Not to mention, the scenic cruising days can mean that you're up even earlier to admire the magnificent fjords and glaciers. Needless to say, the days are very long on an Alaska cruise. Your cruise ship will also spend several hours in ports of call. So even if you have a short excursion in the morning, you probably would want to stick around and check out the downtown or enjoy some self-exploration in the afternoon. Once you get back on board in the evening, there's dinner, entertainment, live music, and plenty to keep you busy. Further, depending on when you sail, the sun will most likely not set until 9 or 10 p.m. Plus, certain times of year, there's even the opportunity to see the northern lights. So you might be out on your balcony or the pool deck until the wee hours of the morning trying to catch this natural phenomenon. Then, you'll be up bright and early the next day and do it all over again. Alaska cruises are unique, but they're also tiring. So plan your schedule accordingly to ensure you don't burn yourself out by the end of the trip. Admittedly, we are overpackers. Though, looking back on our first Alaska cruise, We packed way more than what was necessary. Of course, packing for Alaska is altogether different than packing for the Caribbean or the Bahamas. The time of year and your shore excursions impact what you should bring to some degree. But regardless of when you cruise, there are several must-pack items all Alaskan cruisers need to have in their suitcases. Chief among these items are multiple layers of clothing. Base layers and medium weight pullovers or jackets are necessary. Make sure these items are easily packable in a day bag, as it's not unheard of to see the temperature swings of 30 to 40 degrees in one day. You'll also want water-resistant clothing like hiking pants, raincoats, and waterproof footwear as well. Yes, it will definitely rain on your Alaska cruise, so you need to make sure you have the right outerwear to weather these wet mornings and afternoons ashore. Other accessories are a must, like hats, gloves, and scarves, and they can provide that added layer of warmth during chilly mornings, but will probably not be necessary later in the day. On the cruise ship, the vibe is more casual than other regions, but you'll still want to bring a few nice outfits for dinner. Keep in mind, many cruise ships also offer self-service laundry. This can help you pack less and save on airline baggage fees during your trip. Although, you don't want to forget to pack items like a bathing suit. Yes, the pools and hot tubs are still open, as is your ship's spa and thermal suite. Other cruise essentials we always pack include magnetic hooks and an over-the-door shoe organizer. You can neatly organize your small electronics and toiletries in the shoe organizer, leaving plenty of counter space. Magnetic hooks come in handy to hang wet clothes, bags, hats, and other items to free up space in the closet. We knew that Alaska was a seasonal cruise region. This means cruises only occur during a set time of year. Traditionally, the Alaska cruise season runs from the end of April, beginning of May, to the end of September, beginning of October. What we didn't realize at first is that when you decide to sail, within those few months can impact the cruise's overall costs by quite a bit. Cruisers will want to sail during the shoulder season to save the most money. This is the beginning or the end of the Alaska cruise season. In the past, we've sailed in September, and doing so has easily saved us thousands of dollars. When comparing cruise fares during this time of year to the middle of the summer, the overall cost can actually easily double for certain stateroom categories. The peak time of the Alaska cruise season is July into early August. This time corresponds with school breaks and is a very popular vacation time for many across the globe, meaning higher cruise fares and more travelers at each port of call. Thus, another great benefit of sailing during the shoulder season are fewer crowds. Admittedly, the middle of the summer does correspond to the warmest weather. This time of year also corresponds to the most daylight hours and is often the peak time for wildlife sightings. But trust us, regardless of when you cruise, you'll still have a great time. Just be prepared to find drastically different prices across the season during your planning process. Before our Alaska cruise, we had done several Bahamas and Caribbean cruises, and honestly, we didn't really recall any lectures or enrichment talks on those initial cruises. Although 10 years later, we can still remember Brett Nixon and Miss Amanda from our first Alaska cruise. These Alaska historians and naturalists were top-notch. On that first Alaska cruise, we wandered into a talk on whales and were instantly hooked. From there, we learned about the history of Skagway, the origins of the native population, and so much more. During our 7 days on board, we made it a point to attend all the talks by this husband and wife team. Since then, we regularly attend these enrichment talks on any cruise lines. Whether the speaker is a local Tlingit or a park ranger, these talks have enhanced our overall Alaska cruise experience. Most cruise lines do feature these onboard talks, so we suggest that you add at least a few of them to your schedule. They're often tailored to your particular itinerary and occur either on sea days or close to the sailaway time on ports of call. Trust us, these 45-minute sessions will be some of the highlights from your trip. Whether it's how long they've been sailing in the region or the number of ships cruising in the area, many cruise lines claim they are the best in Alaska. But honestly, the best cruise line or ship in Alaska really depends on your family's preferences. More cruise ships are sailing the region than ever before, so there are plenty of options. From boutique and expedition cruise ships hosting a couple hundred passengers to mega ships with thousands of fellow cruisers, there are ships of all sizes with various onboard amenities. We've actually sailed with 4 different cruise lines during our sailing to the region. Each cruise line and ship had its own style of cruising, And we love certain aspects of all of them. Along with ships of various sizes, these ships can offer everything from skydiving simulators and go-karts to outdoor decks with real lawn space, to relax, to kayaks and zodiacs to get off the beaten path. Some cruise lines feature chamber music and BBC Earth productions, while others have Broadway caliber shows in the main theater. As you can begin to see, there really is a ship to suit every type of traveler. While we do tend to prefer megaships, smaller ships can visit more unique areas and might offer more onboard inclusions, along with upgraded food and service. So when booking an Alaska cruise, do your homework. This is also where a good travel advisor can help guide you in the right direction. Many travelers rely solely on their cell phones now for taking photos. Honestly, that is usually good enough in most instances. But for our last 2 trips to Alaska, we did upgrade our camera gear, and I'm so glad we did. You don't have to spend thousands on a new camera. You can rent all the gear you need from several online outlets. I rented a few extra zoom lenses for our Sony camera, and they made all the difference in capturing photos during our whale watching and bear watching expeditions. Or you can opt for some other gear to capture your adventure. An action camera like a GoPro or a 360 camera like the new X3 might be more your speed. These cameras are modestly priced, so you don't have to feel too bad about splurging on a new toy, but also know you can usually rent these as well for a fraction of the cost. If you don't want a new camera, at least ensure you have the appropriate gear for your cell phone. Perhaps you'll want to get a gimbal for some stabilization. Given the weather conditions, we recommend water-resistant cell phone cases, holders, or mounts as well. You will not be the only one trying to capture Alaska's incredible landscapes. So having the right equipment and accessories ensure your pictures and videos are Instagram worthy. While many contend that a balcony in Alaska isn't necessary, we disagree. Our first balcony cabin ever on a cruise was actually on our first Alaska cruise. Since then, returning to other less spacious accommodations has been challenging. On early morning sail into ports, you can enjoy some room service with a view. Or perhaps you can sip a coffee while admiring the majestic fjords. The best part is that your warm cabin is just steps away from you getting chilly. Sailing through Glacier Bay is a several-hour affair, so having the convenience of going in and out of your stateroom is a huge perk. Actually, some of our best photos of glaciers and fjords have been taken from our private balcony. It's also the perfect place to spend the afternoon watching the coastline or scouting for wildlife with some binoculars. While a balcony cabin will cost you more money, we think the upgrade is worth it, especially in Alaska. If budget is a concern, maybe price out a balcony cabin during shoulder season or book a guaranteed balcony rate. As I mentioned earlier, we are over planners and always have our days ashore mapped out ahead of time. It did take us a few trips to finally realize that not every minute of your Alaska cruise truly needs to be planned out. You should take some time just to wander and explore. Definitely do those fantastic excursions, but carve out a little time in your day to experience the local way of life. Check out some nature trails, restaurants, museums, and shops. Many of these Alaska towns are fairly walkable. With some quick internet research or a port map, you can set off to explore some of the downtown attractions. Stroll Creek Street and catch a can. Grab a beer at the Red Onion Saloon in Skagway. Or dive into some fresh seafood at Tracy's Crab Shack in Juneau. You can also do some souvenir shopping, marvel at totem poles, or find a trail to take a short hike. Whatever you do, be sure to set aside some time to learn more about Alaska's people and places at a slower pace. And finally, we have a bonus tip to help you save the most money on your Alaska cruise. Not only does when you sail affect your overall cruise cost, but when you book your cruise can have a huge impact. We tend to book our cruises months in advance, sometimes even earlier, like a year or more in advance, for sought-after destinations like Alaska. Typically, the earlier you book, the cheaper the cruise rate. Booking early also gives you more cabin options and more time to pay off the cruise. It also gives you more time to plan and ensure you get all the shore excursions you want. In our over 65 cruises, there's only been one time that our cruise fare actually dropped in price after we booked. Occasionally, you can get a last-minute cruise deal for select cabin categories, but you must live near the cruise departure point to ensure that any money you save on this last-minute cruise deal isn't washed away by the costly last-minute airfare. Not to mention, booking late may also result in limited tour options and sold-out shore excursions. Thus, we never recommend risking your dream Alaska cruise vacation by waiting around hoping to get a last-minute cruise deal. If you're looking for even more help planning your Alaska cruise, check out our 25 Alaska cruise tips and tricks that only the experts know. In that video, we go more in depth about planning an Alaska cruise, how to spend time ashore, and how to make the most of the activities and onboard amenities on your cruise ship to help ensure your Alaska cruise is truly unforgettable.